Well guys, in today's video we will be replacing the CV axles, strut towers on this, not sure what the year is, Nissan Maxima. Hey Blake.
Hello.
As you can see, it's going quite well.
So as we said in today's video, we're going to be replacing the CV axle. Only this side needs the CV axle replaced. Chicken, leave. Only this side needs the CV axle replaced. The boot's ripped. You can sometimes just replace the boot, but we're going to go ahead and just replace the axle. The lower control arm also needs to be replaced, and we're going to inspect the strut when we have everything apart, just in case it needs to be replaced as well. Basically, the steps to taking all this apart is, obviously, you see we already took the tire off. We're going to have to take the axle nut out to get the axle free, and then we're going to take the two bolts out of the top for the strut apart so we can flop the whole thing down, and that way we can pull the CV axle out and then yank it out. And then once we have that out of the way, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put one of the bolts, or with it all flopped, we'll put a socket on the lower ball joint and break it free, just because it's kind of a weird size. We got 3/4 to fit on there. Our wrench is too loose, but the socket fits pretty good. So we're going to put that on there and break it loose, and once we get it off, we'll put just one bolt back in up top so that it holds everything rigid, and then we'll use a pickle fork to separate it. And then once we have that separated, we can take out the two bolts back here. You can't see it from here, but they're underneath here. There, you can see them.
And then, right there.
And then there's just one bolt or one nut back here to take off this other side, and then we can replace the lower control arm. With the lower control arm, there's no adjustment, so once we replace it, whatever the alignment was before, it should be similar. The reason why we're doing all this today is because the customer was wearing through tires really bad. On the other side, the bushing's completely gone, which was causing a lot of vibration and stuttering and all that stuff. And this side as well, the rubber is starting to rip, so we're going to replace that too. Generally, with any front end stuff, if one side starts to go, the other isn't far along, so we'll go ahead and do that. And that's pretty much it.
That's it. And we have all the new parts over here. There, new CV axle. On the passenger side of the car, we've already removed these two bolts here. CV axle's out, dropped, and we've removed the two bolts right underneath here.
So whenever you get your new one, it comes with this piece already here, as you can see.
Here's the new one right here.
So you can see with the new one, it comes with all the new bushings and this bolt here, or the flanges here, and it comes with the new ball joint, so we don't have to worry about trying to remove it. This one actually is removable.
Which that's nice, because most of them aren't.
Yeah, a lot of manufacturers, like this one. Okay, so this one on the stock one on the car is removable. You can tell by if it has a little C-clip on it. But there are a lot of car companies that make it to where it's all one assembly. You can't replace it. But usually aftermarket parts, once you do replace it, it comes with it having the ability to replace it. Yeah, so we already got all that off. We got the lower ball joint removed, like we said, by using the pickle fork. The whole purpose of putting the bolt back up top is so everything stays pretty much rigid. That way we can beat on it and it comes off easier. Like I said, on this side, the CV axle is just fine, so we don't have a need to replace it. So it's still here. Otherwise, we would have taken it out. It helps for space and everything. But once we get this one nut here off and then take off the sway bar end link, it'll pop right out. We can put the new one in. The customer was recommended some struts on both sides from somebody else, so they went ahead and got them just in case. But we've looked at them so far. They don't seem to have anything wrong with them. There's no really play. There's no oil leaking from the shock itself, so we shouldn't have anything to worry about that. What we can do is, since they already bought them, Once we get everything back together, we take it for a test drive, hit bumps and stuff like that, see if there's any kind of rattling or any shaking still left in it. If there is, then we'll go ahead and replace the struts. But from the looks of it, they shouldn't need it. Basically, you just don't want any amount of play, which there isn't. A lot of times what can happen is at the very top where they mount, the bushing goes bad to where it just becomes not even mounted to the car anymore. But we'll make sure to look at that too, just in case. But it's looking pretty good. So, yeah. Okay, so as you can see, we went ahead and took out the strut bolts and the axle nut. So now we have the axle free. So what we're gonna do to remove it is you just give it a good yank, and then it pops right out. And as you can see, that boot's all torn in there. These are always filled with grease, and what happens once these boots tear, obviously dirt and debris gets in them and ruins the ball bearings that are inside of it, and they get clunky and eventually they'll break. And obviously, since this is what drives your tire, you don't want them to break. Like I said, you can replace the boots, but it's just kind of better all around. And plus you have to have a special little tool to do it anyway. So we'll just go ahead and replace the axle. So yeah, now that we got this out, we can take care of the lower ball joint. We can reach it better with a socket. We'll clean it up so we can actually look at what we're doing. You just take this cotter pin off. The best way to do it is with a pair of dikes. They grab better than a regular pair of pliers. Once we get that off, we'll just put the pickle fork underneath it and just take everything else off just like the other side. Then, like I said before, the reason why we didn't take the other axle out is just because we didn't need to replace it, so we can work around it. But obviously without the axle there, it's a lot easier to reach everything. So as you can see, we got the old one removed. This is what's left of the inner bushing on this side, just the metal sleeve, and then no bushing material. This is all supposed to be one, as well as this side. You're not supposed to be able to flop it like this. All that rubber's just gone, which that's just normal wear and tear. Especially if you live on dirt roads, this escalates a lot quicker because dirt roads are a lot rougher on vehicles than your regular paved roads. We went ahead and replaced both of the lower control arms on both sides. We went ahead and finished up the other side and got it all buttoned up since we had nothing left on that side. The next step on this side is we're gonna replace the CV axle, and it's pretty much just the same as taking it out, just putting it in. You just gotta line it up in there, and then just give it a good pop. Sometimes they are a little bit difficult.
You're
Put a little
just
grease on that lock
spotlight
nut.
right now.
Huh?
Put a little grease on the lock nut.
True.
Keep it centered.
I think we might try. I went ahead and moved the hub out of the way just because if you have a bad angle, it's hard to kind of put it in. We also put some grease around the little lock nut that holds it to keep it centered. And just like that.
There it is.
And it's always good to give it just a light tug, just to make sure it's in. And that's that. And just like that, another happy customer done. We got everything put back on and replaced. We did put, ended up replacing one of the struts because we took another test drive to make sure. Obviously, with that one side with the bushings being gone, we couldn't tell if there were any other noise over that one. So we went ahead and took a test drive, which is always good to do after, as well as once you're done working on anything. You always want to check all your bolts, look through everything, look at your pile of tools and bolts just to make sure you don't forget anything. Like I said, we took it for a test drive, found that one of them, the driver or the passenger side, did need to be replaced, so we went ahead and did it. We didn't bother to show how to replace it just because it's those 2 bottom bolts you already saw, and then 3 on the top, and then you just take it out, put the new one in. They will have to go do an alignment just to make sure everything is good. Pretty much all the parts we did replace really shouldn't change the alignment, but if the alignment we believe the alignment was done before, but with the bushings being like that, the alignment was pretty much worthless. So shortly after they'll go and get an alignment done somewhere else, and then that's pretty much it. If you liked the video, send a like, leave a comment, and if you want, subscribe for more. Expecting more videos.